Alright, y'all, so this video is about Johnny Furphy, GG Jackson, Leonard Miller, Tristan Vukcevic, right? And do you guys know these names? Okay, so you might know GG Jackson. Anyway, I bring these names up because, you know, you have Indiana in the finals, and they got this guy named Johnny Furphy, who was 6'8", 6'9", 19, 20 years old, from Australia, and he is super talented, and he was a second round pick. Minnesota, who played in the Western Conference Finals, brought a player named Leonard Miller, and he is 6'11", could shoot threes, uber athletic, and he's also young, 19, 20 years old, might be 21 now. I bring these players up because a team has these type of players when they have a plan. And I question if the Lakers have a plan. The Lakers, in order to get ahead of everything that's going on with the NBA right now, as far as style of play, and as far as rules regarding their budget, right? The league has evened a lot out. So you don't really have rich teams and poor teams as much as you did before. Now you have everyone playing on the same level. And in order for a team like the Lakers to come up, they have to find players like Johnny Furphy, like Tristan Vukcevic, like Leonard Miller, like GG Jackson. Mind you, I am not bringing up players that wore first round picks. All these guys were second round picks. And mark my words, in the next 5 years or so, you're going to hear from all of these guys. Right? And I bring this up because without a plan, it's hard to know anything. One of the things I tell my kids all the time, and I know it's one of the things they're tired of hearing me preach on, is that you have to know something. So, if you have a rich man and a poor man, right? Forget rich man and poor man. Let's say you have a rich kid, a 20-year-old kid, and you got a poor 20-year-old kid. If a rich 20-year-old kid loses $200, right? Is he tripping about that? If a poor 20-year-old kid loses $200, is he tripping about that? You see, the Lakers come from a place where they used to be the rich kid. They're not the rich kid anymore. There are no rich kids anymore. If I were to ask you who has a better work ethic, the rich kid or the poor kid, right? I'd be inclined to say the poor kid. The rich kid will have more opportunities and more access to opportunity, but the poor kid is the kid who probably has the better work ethic, who probably works a blue-collar job. Rich kids aren't trying to work blue. Look, man, I'm just going to go ahead and say it. That's what I don't understand about bringing all this manufacturing and shit back to the United States. I don't get it. In the United States, it's a quote-unquote rich country. No one is striving to work in a factory anymore making iPhones. I'm not even being political. I'm telling you something. You could say I'm hating on whoever. I don't give a shit. I know something. Right? You have, if you have a plan, you know something, right? And a lot of you are not going to understand what I mean by that. But what I mean by that is, when you have a plan, you've already predetermined what's best for you, what's best for your organization, maybe what's best for your family. And when things go up and down and get rocky and shaky and all that other shit, you got something to stick to. Because you know what the long game is. Sometimes you know what the short game is. Either way, you have a plan that dictates something. You have vision. Right? That's what the Lakers are missing. So at the end of the Laker bench, does anyone know of a Johnny Furphy? Does anyone know of a GG Jackson? A Tristan Vukcevic? Right? A Leonard Miller? Do we have any of those type of players at the end of our bench? No, we don't. And to me, it's funny that the Indiana Pacers, the team in the finals, have a player like that. The Minnesota Timberwolves have a player like that. In a sense, the Oklahoma City Thunder, right? They probably got 3 guys at the end of their bench. You couldn't name them if you wanted to. But I bet you they got mega upside. That they're not there for nothing. The Lakers could not play. I say that to say this. The Lakers could not play but 5 guys the whole second half of an NBA playoff game. How does that happen to the Lakers? Now, while I just asked a question, you think it might be rhetorical, it's not a rhetorical question. Because there's a real answer to that, right? Again, rich man, poor man, right? A rich man is going to move as if $200 does not matter to him. Or $1,000. Or $10,000. Or this car that they just bought, right? That they decided they don't like, and although as soon as they drove it off the lot, they lost $5,000, they don't give a shit. Right? That's how a rich man moves. A poor man, if he could afford to buy a Toyota Camry and drive a Toyota Camry for 10 years, he might be very, very happy with that. The Lakers had so much talent, right? In the form of Julius Randle, Alex Caruso, Ivica Zubac, Kyle Kuzma, and Kentavious Caldwell-Pope, right? And however you want to look at how those losses manifested themselves, it all resulted in a loss for the Lakers. So now you're looking at the Laker bench and you're looking for a Johnny Furphy. You need someone to step up. You're looking for a Johnny Furphy. Right? You're looking for a Leonard Miller, a Tristan Vukcevic, a G.G. Jackson. And the Lakers don't have it. Right? And what I meant by Oklahoma City, they kind of have it. They got a gang of draft picks and they're set for the future. If they maintain their core and they continue to draft well, they're fine. Right? What they may not have at the end of their bench, even though I don't know any of the players at the end of their bench, but what they may not have, they have in draft assets. What do the Lakers have? And it's a function of the Lakers moving like a rich man. Right? They're moving like a rich man, but the whole NBA has set forth a first apron and a second apron and all these other rules to prevent you from moving like a rich man. You can't do it anymore. So now what you see is the Lakers trying to follow what the real working man has been doing. And when I say the real working man, I'm talking about Indiana Pacers. I'm talking about the Oklahoma City Thunder. I'm talking about the Minnesota Timberwolves. None of those teams could ever afford to move like rich men. They had to move like working class men. Like every fucking dollar matters. Right? And that's what you're seeing right now. And, trades are really fun to talk about. The prospect of getting a new player on your team is really fun to talk about. Right? But these trades are being spoken about without acknowledging context, without acknowledging reality. And the reality is, if the Lakers had a plan, then every summer would be tactical. Right? Instead, what we got last summer was Rob Pelinka did nothing. Literally did nothing. What we got now is trades that probably result in nothing manifesting, meaning that the trade does not happen. Or if it does happen, you don't really know if it makes your team better or not. Because you're taking a risk on a player that's been paid and played a certain way for so many years because their production is only what their production is. They can't do much more than what their production is. So when they get to the Lakers, right, and they provide a production that is very specific to the team they just left, meaning they get to the Lakers and they don't do what you wanted them to do, you're going to hear talking heads so quickly say, yo, we need to bench this guy. We need to trade fans. We need to trade this guy. All this other shit, right? Yo, you don't trade a Tristan Vukcevic, a G.G. Jackson, a Johnny Furphy, a Leonard. You don't trade those guys. They're more expendable, right? But those teams have a plan, right? And they have a value to their assets that won't just allow you to rip them off. That is really all I wanted to say, man. I wanted to point out that, you know, all those guys were second round picks. They were all attainable. And if you have a plan, you're going to see the value of those players, right? You don't need to pay them a lot. All you need to do is sign them and let them grow and cultivate their talents. That's all you have to do. And if I was a Lakers right now in this offseason, you got Luka and you got LeBron, so that puts you on an accelerated timeline. I get that. I respect that. But if I was the Lakers, I would look for value such as those players that I've been mentioning. Yeah, you know, I know you, those who watch this channel, the few of you who watch this channel know, I've been on Tristan Vukcevic for a long time now. And I'm not hearing any of the talking heads talk about him because the Lakers are star country. We chase names. That's what we do. We chase names. So you won't hear them talking about Tristan Vukcevic. But, you know, Tristan Vukcevic is not the end-all be-all of my videos about Tristan Vukcevic, right? Those videos are about having something in your pocket for the future, you know. And the fact that the Lakers had Ivica Zubac, right? That was somebody with vision, someone with a plan, who understood that one day this guy will be something, you know. He may not be anything today, but he will be something. You know, sometimes I tell my kids, you know, you have to know something. You know, and it's hard not to know. It's hard to know something when you have no plan, right? When you see no future, you know. So, like, just as a dad who has a plan for his children, you know, I got to tell my kids, yo, man, the history of police in the United States has been racist. Just look at the history. It's been racist. Law enforcement, right, has often been racist. It's been to inflict harm on black people. It's just what it is, right? I'm a child of the 80s. The way the crack epidemic was treated relative to the opioid epidemic that we see now, night and day. Night and day. You know, drug use has always been a per capita offense. Meaning, if 60% of the country's white, 14% of the country's black, certain percent Mexican, Jewish, whatever, drug use followed that. But man, in the 80s, you know, law enforcement came down so hard on certain areas, right? You take welfare. I know what face has always been on welfare, and it was a brown face, right? Well, you can't ask me not to take what I know and what I've seen and not to tell my son, look, man, you're going to come across some cops who's going to pull you over and fuck with you just to fuck with you because that's what they do, right? I understand you're a human being, but you got to live to see another day, man. You know, if a cop is acting like an asshole, and I've come across many cops who I personally felt acted like an asshole to me because I was black, or pulled me over because I was black. I don't give a shit what anybody says, right? It's plenty of people who try to tell you, no, you don't know that. No, there's no such thing as racism in this country anymore. All this other shit, right? I have to know that because I got a plan for the future, right? I got kids at home, you know? Some cop goes and finds his wife fucking some dude, you know what I mean? Comes to work all pissed, right? He's going to look for certain people to take that out on. Look, let me tell you something. if you're at your job, right, and you had a bad day at home, or you found out your wife was cheating on you, or you found out, you know, you're going to lose your house, whatever, right, and you got a bad attitude, no one's going to tell me that they don't have a little bit less of a bad attitude when confronting their boss that day, as opposed to confronting their coworker, as opposed to confronting a subordinate. If they have an attitude, if they come to work with that, right? I'm not built like that, but I know plenty of people who are. If they come to work like that, they fix their attitude depending on who they're talking to, right? A cop is supposed to, quote unquote, protect and serve, right? They're on the taxpayer dime. So what are you doing pulling over my son over some bullshit? Just making some shit up, right? Pulling me over, you know, saying I look suspicious or I match it, whatever bullshit they say, right? You see, when you have a long-term plan, you're going to put that encounter, that confrontation, you're going to put it in perspective, right? And when you're rich, you're protected, you're insulated from that. You're insulated from having to plan to do anything, right? If you don't plan, you know, again, you got a 22-year-old kid, rich family, 22-year-old kid, poor family. They both want to buy a house, right? And if this poor kid overreaches, what are the consequences? He puts down his 20% down payment. He overreaches. What are the consequences, right? And this rich guy over here puts down a 20%, overreaches. What are the consequences? Who loses more, right? The Lakers have been operating like the rich man. Like they don't have to plan. We're the Lakers. You know, when all I'm asking and all your due diligence should be telling you is put Johnny Furphy on your fucking bench. Is that too much to ask? Right? I'm not talking about the first round pick and don't connect, even though that's a fantastic player to have on your bench, who I believe should have been cultivated more so that he became useful. You have 82 games to get that dude ready. And he came in looking like he was ready on day one. And you fucked that off. JJ, you fucked that off. Right? But that's besides the point. Dalton Connect's a good dude to have on your bench, but how come you don't have a second rounder? Right? Like I always say, yo, I wasn't mad when they had Isaac Bonga and Sun Yu. And they became jokes, those two. But what do they represent in a larger sense? What did those guys represent in a larger sense? Right? They're jokes to people who don't understand planning. You know, if you understand planning, then you know we are a team of stars. We have LeBron, we have Luka, right? We have a team for now. Might Sun Yu and Isaac Bonga, just think about it like this. If it was Sun Yu, Isaac Bonga, and G.G. Jackson, right? And Sun Yu and Isaac Bonga didn't work. What'd you lose? What did you really lose? G.G. Jackson kicks ass. Sun Yu, Isaac Bonga, Tristan Vukcevic. Tristan works, right? You got to remember, the Lakers had Derek Fisher on their bench at one time. Derek Fisher, I did not think was going to make it. I couldn't stand the dude when he came to the NBA. I don't know what they saw in that guy. Western Kentucky or some shit? Right? Vision, man. Jerry West and them guys have vision, man. And they understood, yo, we got Shaq, we got Kobe, we got 1 through 8, we're Trump tight. Right? At some point in time, we're going to need somebody to augment this. And they had Derek Fisher there, man. They had Kobe on the bench at one time. Kobe wasn't playing no serious time when he first got to the team. He wasn't. Kobe was playing like 8-10 minutes a game in his rookie year, but he was there, right? And that's what I hope the Lakers need to understand. That to me, that's the significance of why I made this post. Is it about Johnny Furphy and Tristan Vukcevic, Leonard Miller? No, it's not. It's not about. It's about how the Lakers operate, right? And the bigger point is, if you have a plan, then you know something. You're more inclined to know some shit. If you don't have a plan, you're not inclined to know some shit because you don't have to. You ain't sit down and think it out. Right? You never sat down and thought it out. So you're just not inclined to know anything. And when you don't know anything, you get caught behind the styles. And as the Lakers, you can't get caught behind the style. You know, you're watching now. You're watching two teams that, in my opinion, play big. And I gotta say, respect to Oklahoma City. I did not think they could play that big, but they can. Lou Dort plays big as hell, and he played bigger than Anthony Edwards. Alex Caruso plays big as hell. He played bigger than he was when he was with the Lakers. I seen that dude guarding centers and shit. Helped shut down Nikola Jokic. Alex Caruso, man. Then they play Hartenstein and tall man from Gonzaga, right? Then they got Shai Gilgeous, who's 6'6" point guard. Yo, man, the league is going back to the league is backing away from the exception to the rule. That's what I call the Golden State Warriors, the exception to the rule. They have 3 of the best shooters ever, and the whole stupid ass league tried to copy that. Right? If you have an exception to the rule and then you try to copy that exception to the rule, right? You're really going to try to copy freaking Steph Curry? You can't. He's the exception to the rule. You're really going to try to copy Klay Thompson? That's what I mean when I say the league kind of handed Golden State championships. It sounds like I'm not hating on them. What I mean is that the league went and tried to duplicate what they were doing. Right? I mean, how stupid would it be for somebody to try to duplicate Michael Jordan? You can't. You could duplicate. You could take shit from his game, pattern your game around him. But if you're going head to head against Michael Jordan, and you're trying to find players who duplicate what he does, that's the dumbest effing thing I ever heard in my life. I'm not talking. I know a lot of you probably thinking, oh, well, Kobe duplicated. Look, Kobe wasn't as good as Jordan. I'm just going to tell you that straight up. He wasn't as good as Jordan. All right? And it's fine that he tried to duplicate him. That's fine. You know? The thing is that when they went straight up, right, they weren't really competitors. Kobe was young, Jordan was old and on his way out. So they weren't really competitors. What I'm trying to say is that if the Lakers got Shaq and you go and try to duplicate what Shaq does, it sounds real stupid. And that's what the Lakers are trying to do right now. They're trying to duplicate what's popular, what's hot, you know? And because that's what they're on right now, they're going to be in a perpetual state of purgatory, of mediocrity, until they decide to take the lead, right? But in order for them to take the lead, they're going to have a plan. And that's what the players, the young players I was speaking of, represent. They represent that the Lakers aren't quite there yet, right? They don't have a plan yet. When they develop that plan, then you'll start seeing, in my opinion, you're going to start seeing them have the success that you expect, right? Until they hit on that, and until then, it's going to be a tough road. I think it's going to be a lot of disappointment coming up here. Yeah, so I'm not making this post to be negative as much as, just be realistic. When I look at what Oklahoma City is doing and I look at what the Indiana Pacers have done, it's hard not to look at them and then turn around and look at your team. and see what they're doing and what they've done. And I'm having a hard time not acknowledging certain things. Right? It feels like I have to acknowledge them and I have to talk about it. You know, and again, you know, if you're going to have only 5 guys you go play in the second half, which I think was stupid and it was a mistake by JJ Redick, but if you decide that that's the case, then where is your Johnny Furphy? Where is your G.G. Jackson? Where is your Tristan Vukcevic? Right? Where is your Leonard Miller? Where are all of your draft picks going forward? You don't have them. Right? You don't have a plethora of just extra picks that you've acquired and taken on as assets. You don't have any of it. Why? Right? That's $1 million question, is why? And I'm telling you, it's a function of not having a plan. It's a function of a fly-by-night, just a frivolous, wasteful lifestyle. You know, a rich man's lifestyle. But again, salary caps, aprons, and all this other shit. Yo, there are no rich people anymore. And we did not see it coming. You know, that's what's going on right now. So anyway, this is a Pure Uncut Lakers. Please like and subscribe, and catch you next time.